This podcast is sponsored by John Frieda, the expert hair care brand with tailored ranges for transforming your hair. The John Frieda Pro Filler Plus is a multi-award-winning range, which thickens hair overall by 200% in just one use, and is loved by women all over the UK. Hello, and welcome to Hello's Changemaker podcast, a series redefining midlife as a positive change for good. I'm Sophie, Hello's Chief Content Officer, and my job is to share some inspiration from incredible women who are driving change in this area, who are proving that midlife and the menopause can be the start of an exciting second act. This week we welcome Shirley Ballas. As Strictly's head judge, she's leading the way for women in their second act with her incredible career, infectious confidence, and a vitality we all admire. She's also been a leading light in the menopause space, encouraging women to tackle symptoms head-on and helping break the taboo. Shirley, thank you for being a change maker.
I'm delighted to be here.
I wonder if we could set the tone for this podcast. As I say, we're trying to reinvent midlife as not something to dread. What would you say is the highlight of midlife and beyond?
Well, I just turned 64, so I'm really beyond midlife. I feel like I'm on
I feel like you're still.
I feel like I'm on the other side, really, truly on the other side. And I have to say now, reaching this age, I'm trying to take more time, spend a little bit more time on myself, give myself awards and treats that perhaps in the past I haven't done. And reaching 64 is definitely a milestone. Of course, always grateful for health.
Yes.
When you have good health.
Yes.
But also taking care of oneself. And that is top of my list. I prioritize it, you know, by my juicing and by different things that I want to do, keeping my skin, you know, feeling good. Because I feel like if I feel good on the inside, it's going to reflect on the outside.
Absolutely.
So treating my body a little bit more like a temple. I have a bit more time to do that now. I didn't always have time when I was a young mother, traveling the world, trying to be a world champion. But now I've come to a space where I'm really trying to take care of myself. 2025 will be a dramatic term for me because I think it's going to be a little bit about me, and more me.
Oh, that's great, Shirley. I love that. I think that there are these stages that we go through, aren't there? And motherhood is so wonderful, but so all-consuming and exhausting. And then you get to midlife, and we're maybe dealing with teenagers, and then people fleeing the nest, which feels very emotional. But then you think, okay, I've got a bit more time to focus on me. But actually, we've also got parents we're looking after, health, you know, the menopause sets everything off a little bit. We were saying like maybe for a decade or so, and so it's interesting to know that at 64, you feel like this is really your time. You finally got there.
Well, I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that I've gotten there yet because I live with my mum, and that's just the best blessing ever. She's 87 next week.
That's wonderful.
So that's a blessing. But somehow in my heart, I'm always torn because my son lives in LA. And of course, I have this beautiful first grandbaby now. My son's going to turn 39 next year. So it's a late baby, if you like.
Yes.
And they of course, lost a baby before. And then we were blessed with this little fella, and I want to be part of everything he's doing. So I always feel there's me time, there's mum time, then I work a full-time job. Strictly is like a Saturday job for me. Wonderful Saturday job, might I add. But I have a full-time job as well that I'm always working. So I really am pulled in every direction, I feel. And it's only in the last couple of months that I think, okay, 2025, I'm telling myself, is my time.
You're making me a bit nervous. This doesn't mean that we're going to not be seeing you on Strictly in 2025, does it?
No, but I will be making some changes to things that I do, you know, so.
It's hard
to do
quite dramatic
changes,
really?
Actually. So, yeah. So.
Yeah.
I think I have to because also, you know, which I obviously haven't posted, and this will be the first time I talk about it, but I have a spine issue, which I've been to see the surgeon, and it's a deteriorated spine, and that they think it requires surgery. And of course, I'm going to do everything I can to avoid surgery. And so health, you can have everything in the world, but if you haven't got your health, you've got nothing.
I do think that's really true. And I know that you had your own health scare as well.
I've had a few of them, and
I know that you're very vigilant. When there's something going on with your health, it shifts your focus, doesn't it? And it makes you see instantly what it is that's important. And it sounds like you've had this sort of...
Well, some of the scares that I had, whether it was breast or, you know, female organs or whatever, it wasn't painful. It's something you find and you go and treat and you deal with. It's more mentally, you have to be on top of it. But when it's to do with the spine, you're in constant pain all the time. It's like nagging toothache that never goes away. So I think I have to slow down. Well, the doctors told me, he said, you need to learn to teach from a chair, Shirley.
Okay.
But I've never done that in my life. I'm an up and going. You see me when I dance with Anton on a Saturday, and, you know, we're always wanting to do things and try things, you know. And so forced possibly in some certain way to change some lifestyle habits in 2025 for sure.
Does that feel very daunting for you?
It is daunting for me.
It must be.
Because I, you know, from the day that my son was born when I was 25, I was traveling all over the world, taking this little fella with me. And so I was a new mother with a baby trying to be a world champion, you know, so that was difficult, you know. And then, of course, he turned into the most wonderful child. And I feel blessed on that. But he's also always telling me that you do too much for too many, but it's just who I am. I've sat down, I've thought about it, even had a bit of counselling on it. I'm just that caregiver. That's what I do. But now I think it's, you know, if I'm blessed to see 2025, because tomorrow's promised to nobody, then I will be taking things a lot more in my stride and actually having to learn to say no to some things, which I never do. If something comes in, I'll do it, I'll do it, I'll do it, I'll help. And in the end, I'm not helping myself. I don't get enough rest.
So from my perspective, you're an inspiration for, you know, when we say you feel like you're the end of midlife. What a great age your mum is living to. I feel it probably still is your midlife. But from my perspective, it's great because women can feel when they hit midlife menopause that things are over. You know, that's the end of something. Whereas your career has not slowed down in any way. You have, from the outside, obviously only, have appeared to be as successful, as active as. And so it's interesting to hear you say that maybe you've done it a bit too much.
Well, I feel blessed that I'm in an industry where I can constantly work on either side of the coast. You know, I can work anywhere. Going to Italy tomorrow, I'll be there for 4 days at a big convention. So I'm lucky that I can do that on my regular job. It is great, but it's time consuming and it's exhausting because you're dealing with couples that are coming in with their emotional problems and their strive to get to the top and win. So, and I take my job very seriously there because if a person wants to make the final, I want that person to make the final. So I'm very engaged in everything that I do. But sometimes I just don't take, I mean, I love to exercise. I don't always have time to do that. But fitting in my yoga or my cold plunge or riding my bike or walking on a walker, I enjoy those things. And what I realise is they're good for me. So it's important that I do something for myself because I know when I hit about 55 and I'd gained quite a lot of weight and, you know, was going through that terrible stage of the menopause and didn't feel that anything was I was worth nothing. That's how I felt. And some people around me made me feel like that. And I don't want to feel those feelings again. So I take care of myself. I juice. I go to the Juicy Oasis. I try to do my yoga. I drink my 64 ounces of water. Something for me that I'm actually in control of. But it's not easy for me to do that.
You talk about that time when you felt like you weren't worth it and that you weren't, your confidence, I suppose, was at an absolute low, which is very common for women when they start going through the menopause. And the fact that you have spoken about this, I think, has helped change the conversation so that now actually women approaching the menopause, it's all we hear about. We know an awful lot about it. But going back to that time, what allowed you, what helped you get out of that, do you think?
Well, first of all, I have to say that the day I turned 50, I'd just broken up of a relationship I'd been in for 6 years. And that was traumatic and I was not in a good place. And then all of a sudden, my period stopped. And so I didn't know whether it was the shock of going through the relationship, but obviously it was the onset of menopause and it just happened to be at that time. So I had that bad relationship breakup and then I had the onset of the menopause and that was drastic for me. The hot flushes, my hair started to fall out in the sink. I don't have a lot of hair to start with. It's very fine, my hair. Plenty of it, but very, very fine. And it was coming out in handfuls in the sink. So again, I was putting it down to my mum as well. It's the shock of the fact that you've split up with this relationship when you really adored this person. So I was putting it down to all sorts of things. But now, obviously, I know it was onset of the menopause. It was just full of...
And no one spoke about it.
And no one spoke about it. And I went to the doctor and they just want to put you on an antidepressant. Well, that's what it was for me anyway. And although I may have had some issues in that area, I don't think that we spent enough time talking with the doctor. You know, he didn't sit there and say to me, okay, express to me how you feel. You know, it was just, well, I've been through a breakup. I'm feeling all these symptoms. Oh, let's give you an antidepressant.
Yeah.
Well, I would have thought when you go into the menopause, now I'm looking back, I would have thought, you know, your periods might stop and then that you might get them again and then it would go. I would have thought it would have been a general thing. With me, it was just a cut at 50, age 50 on my birthday. It just stopped then.
Wow.
I know exactly the date, I know where I was. And then from there, it just all sorts of started.
It was really a sudden
headaches,
onset.
Cloudy in my mind. These, like I say, pimples, of which I've still got photographs of today, just covered my body. I never knew to this day what they were. You know, hair falling out in chunks, couldn't sleep, irritable. So,
you mentioned that your son as well sort of
he was the one I
you.
went to after when I was 52 or 3.
Okay.
And I told him, you know, I don't need these antidepressants. I don't think the doctor's listening to me. And then he sat down and he said, tell me what you're feeling. And it was with him, your son, that I started to share all these just dark places.
Yeah.
I found myself going in a real dark place. I didn't like that place at all, you know, and
you don't seem a dark place kind of person.
No, I'm not a dark place kind of person, but, you know, obviously my brother took his own life, as you know, at 44, and he was in a dark place. And I wondered at the time, is this the same dark place he was in?
Yeah.
So I started to compare the dark place I was in to perhaps the dark place my brother was in that he couldn't get out of. So it was all
and then
just
you panic
very...
Oh,
and life
awful.
was still going, and I was teaching because I teach every single day.
Yeah.
So it's not like I could sit and mope at home. You know, there was sometimes I took off work, but for the majority of the time, I forced myself to get up and I forced myself to go to work, because what I realised is I didn't like time on my own.
Yes.
I didn't want my own company. I didn't like what I saw in the mirror. I didn't like the fact that I was losing my hair.
Oh.
I didn't like any of that. So it was easier for me to just turn a blind eye to it, like everybody else apparently did, and go to work.
So what was your
in
path
silence
from that very, you know, the dark time there to the Shirley that we see today and that we've, you know, enjoyed watching through all of your Strictly journey? Confidence is part of it. Obviously, hormones were a big part of it as well, and getting the proper treatment. What are your confidence secrets? Do you have confidence secrets?
I don't think my confidence came back until my son knew a person called Dr. Alexandra, who was in California. And he suggested, when I went to talk to him, I went with my son, and he suggested that my hormone levels were probably off. And he suggested bioidentical hormones. And once I started those, I was a different person. So I probably say 7 or 8 years now.
Okay.
And bioidentical hormones, which I get when I go over there. Plus I constantly have hormone checks here to check your estrogen, your progesterone. A little testosterone never goes amiss, you know. Get a little bit that in your system, you feel like 18 again. And that's exactly what happened to me. You know, I've had it where I've had too much testosterone and grown a beard, actually.
No.
Not a word of a lie.
No.
At one point, the mixture didn't come out
Wasn't quite right.
Yeah, so I was getting too much of this and not enough of that. But at one point I was getting too much testosterone. I'm not lying. I had a chin full of beard. I was constantly plucking my chin.
Oh my goodness.
I had black hair all over my arms. I was growing this hair. My mother was like, it was coming down my nose and out my ears.
Shirley, you're wonderful.
I'm not like, honest to God. And I went to see my English doctor, and she sent me for some more tests. And then they lowered the testosterone. It was at a 9. Apparently, it's supposed to be like a 1 or a 2.
Oh, my goodness.
And it was like at the level of a man's. God, I felt great, though. I might have been hairy, but I felt great.
You felt really good. This reminds me of a conversation I've had with a colleague at work, whose name I will not mention, who started on HRT and is in a new midlife relationship, and that was great because low libido can be a problem with, you know.
Yes.
But then, you know, the more she looks into it, the more she's like, I think maybe I should put a bit of testosterone into this. And her boyfriend's like, please don't. enough, please don't.
Well, yeah, I think it helps. I think if you get the balance right, it can be life-changing. Life-changing. For me, it was life-changing.
Oh, that's incredible. And
so
with
I put that down to Dr. Alexandra.
Yeah.
So for him, I'm truly grateful.
Looking at life, sort of, I guess, we'll maybe look at that period of life from 50 onwards. How do you feel that you have changed as a woman? Do you feel that what I see and what I start to experience myself and I see in women as they get older is that they stop taking so much crap? You know, they're they don't care so much what people think about them. And you describe yourself as a carer. And I think if you are a caring person, that does continue through your life. You put everything into your children, don't you? Have you felt that you've changed in any way or not?
Well, I'm in a job, aren't I, that's 24/7 that requires you to be totally on and in that place all the time. And I would like to say sometimes I've come to that conclusion where I don't care. The trouble with me is, as my mother says to me and reminds me constantly, I'm oversensitive. So if I get social media posts, or if I find something that's, people are talking behind my back and things like that, rather than thinking, I'm really trying to think, it doesn't bother me, it doesn't bother me. But for some reason it does. It does bother me. People's behaviour bothers me. I like to treat people the way I expected to be treated back, but it's not always the case.
No.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I would say I struggle a little bit with letting it all go. Maybe people that have been around me might think I've gotten a little bit better, but I am sensitive. Even today in the studio, I was working and a comment was made, and I could feel those bristles up my back, going.
That's interesting.
And I'm thinking to myself, back off, Shirley, who cares?
Yeah.
I talk to myself all the time. My mum said from a small child, when I had a birthday party and she was the judge, my mum, and she didn't, give me first prize for the singing. She gave it to a neighbour, and I've never forgotten that. And it was such a drama. She said she realised from a young age that she had a sensitive child.
It must be very difficult being, on a show as big as Strictly. And I mean, people who are on these shows are only human, and that's what everyone needs to remember, especially the people who are keyboard warrioring, when they're writing horrible things. But I just sort of assume that somehow you manage to not let it bother you, because it must be endless.
Well, the thing is, I go in on a Saturday morning to do my job for the nation. That's how I always look at it. I'm married to dancing. I love music. I go in there. It's not a chore for me. It's an absolute delight. And I get immersed in this world between a bit of Vegas and Disneyland and, Hollywood, glitz, glamour, baubles, bangles and beads. And for just that whole day, it sounds strange. It's a bit of a twist here. I can switch off because I know my job so well that it's nothing that I need to rehearse.
Yes.
It's nothing I need to sit down and write. You just produce the dancer in front of me and then I start yapping. It's a good job I only have 15 seconds, otherwise I'd bore you to tears. But yes, so that side of Strictly, when I got that job in 2017, first of all, it was a shock at 57 to get that kind of a job.
Fantastic.
But it really opened up a world of not my industry, because I was very bullied in my industry and have been for a long time bullied in it. And I didn't have that on Strictly. It just really was, mainly the people I dealt with, all women, and all in there to make this beautiful TV show. And I have to say, in that way, it was life-changing to see the other side of how life can be. So it taught me that.
It did.
So I can put up with social media because I actually adore and love every minute of being on there. And it's not about being on TV. It's about actually seeing a new dancer in front of me and thinking, how can I help you in 15 short seconds?
And it's just such a loved show as well.
Yes.
That I suppose for every horrible comment that could affect you, you must get so much love as well.
I
so
do.
That's a really nice thing.
People who spotted the lump under my arm and people who, make you aware of this and that and the other or what have you, or hair out of place. It's quite welcoming.
This podcast is sponsored by John Frieda, the expert hair care brand with tailored ranges for transforming your hair. The John Frieda Pro Filler Plus is a multi-award-winning range which thickens hair overall by 200% in just one use and is loved by women all over the UK. So talk to me about the next big life change for you, which is becoming a granny. Because I don't know if you're a grandma or whatever you call yourself.
I'm a glam ma.
A glam ma.
A glam
Of course you
ma.
are.
The trouble is, I think he's trying to say glammy, so I think I might prefer nanny.
Glammy.
Well, I was on Strictly last year. My son and my beautiful daughter-in-law had been trying a minute for a baby there, and unfortunately lost the first baby and then got pregnant with this little fella. So I was on Strictly, and I called my son to see if everything was okay because it was getting close to the time. He seemed fine. And of course I went on national TV, and then he called me and he just introduced me to the baby. He said, I didn't tell you I was in labour, otherwise you would have been critiquing somebody's cha-cha-cha, telling them, forget your cha-cha-cha, I've just become a grandmother. But so he didn't tell me, but it was after the fact. But He is just the most enjoyable little soul. And that I feel has changed my life because I constantly want to keep going over to see him. I may go over in November for his first birthday. I'll definitely go over in December, just after Christmas. I'll have Christmas with my mother, New Year with my son. I've been over already 4 or 5 times this year. In fact, I did one trip at the beginning of the summer, and just as I landed at Heathrow, my son called me, "Oh, would you mind coming back, Mummy, in a couple of weeks and doing a bit of babysitting?" I thought, yes. And so I got another flight and off I went back to see him.
So that's really shifted your priorities, hasn't it?
It shifted because I was under a lot of pressure with my own son, trying to go back to the top with his dad and win after winning in 83 and then getting a new partner and going back to the very beginning. So we were striving with my second partner to get back to the top, and I didn't always enjoy. I wasn't there when Mark had chickenpox. My brother shaved all his curls off because I was in Japan because he wanted him to be a bit tougher on the housing estate. And there were measles. I wasn't there for any of that.
Right.
First days of school, 5 Christmases I was away, So I look back at that and I think, should I have stayed away? But then I think, okay, I was able to give a good living in order to take Mark to the places he wanted to go to in his life.
But this is like your second chance.
But now this is a second chance to show that I am a good mum. I could have been I think I was an okay mum. I think my mother was an outstanding mother. Fortunately for my son, he ever only had my mother from 18 months old as a babysitter, because the babysitters we had were untoward towards my son. So my mother moved in and he never had another babysitter.
So he had the best of both worlds.
He had the best. He had a mum that was working hard and that did the best she could. And he had a nanny that was 24/7 who took him everywhere. There wasn't any. And she has all those memories now that we talk about often. And then we have this little grandbaby. So, yeah.
So it's just the little case of the Atlantic in between you that's the challenge.
Atlantic,
yeah. So with regard to your back and just thinking about being a back and being a glam mother, that's another reason you've got to get that sorted, haven't you? Because you want to be on the floor playing cards.
Well, they gave
and
three options, I think. I hope I say this right. One was to fuse the spine. That won't work because you'll never dance again. Right. Another one is to go, I'm going to call it like a keyhole surgery where they go in and shave behind the bone. Not guaranteed. And then the third option is that they go in and do complete surgery, but they might be able to stop the pain somewhat because it's degenerative. Might be able to stop that pain, but then you get pain from having the operation. So, at the end of the day, I'm thinking to myself that I will, and I'm actually going to post it. Harry and I are going to do a post, show the spine in case anybody else is struggling. We've got a special pillow now. I'm not in so much pain in the mornings.
Okay.
But sometimes it takes me a minute to even straighten up. So, and that, of course, because I'm a dancer and I'm used to going, and now I'm thinking every step I take, if I have to do like a big paso doble thing, I'm thinking, maybe I don't need to do that. So I shall be very, very careful. It was lovely to dance with Anton de Beck on the launch show. Was I supposed to say that? Don't know. But anyway, it's out on Saturday because it was Viennese waltz and it was easy and he's such a gentleman and it felt fine to do that. But I don't want to get hooked on any kind of pain medication.
No.
So I'm seeking alternative things, which is anti-inflammatory. I've never drank so much ginger and lemon in all my life.
Oh, good for you, Shirley.
8 ounces every day. The doctor also told me that I had a dehydrated spine, which I don't drink a lot of water.
Okay.
So now I'm on 64 ounces at least fluid when it comes to that. So I'm following directions, and I will be with my osteopath, and I've got a cold plunge now. I shall be doing that. Helps pain.
Okay.
Watching sugar, not eating any of that. So, which I already notice a difference in my skin. So I'm really taking it quite serious.
It does work, that stuff. I know. And it's the willpower to do it, but then suddenly you've got the willpower.
I have the willpower for sure, because I would like to think that I could go on teaching for as long as possible because it's my life and it means the world to me.
Yes.
And when something is, when the doctor just looked at me straight and said, if you don't take care of yourself, you won't be teaching at all.
Yes.
And that was a devastating remark for me, enough to push me into a place where we've
do what it takes.
Had all those scares and now we've got this one. So I best be really vigilant. And, of course, my PA, Harry, who helps with my social media and all my other stuff, is chef as well. So all the anti-inflammatory diets and all the juices and what's the best thing to do. It will never go away because it's degenerative, but maybe I can help it through keeping the spine with a lot of fluids and different things and different exercises and keeping up my yoga and gentle yoga. I'll never be able to run fast again, but I can walk So I can walk, to quite a good speed, make sure I try to get my 10,000 steps in, and generally take care of myself, which I don't think has been the best thing that I've done for myself in the past.
Well, it sounds though, I think it's very difficult. And this is something I think that happens a lot when women hit menopause. They start to feel like their body's letting them down, and that, everything aches a bit, and you're just not used to that. You take it for granted, don't you, when you're in your 20s and 30s and 40s, that you can run wherever you like, you can do whatever you like. But how you approach that mentally is really important as well, because it's, it sounds like in one sense, a devastating diagnosis for you.
It was for me when I got it a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, but
devastating.
You seem to have processed it in a very action-focused way.
Because I don't have a choice. Sometimes you have a choice.
Yes.
There is no choice when it comes to a degenerative spine. I've had specialists in the United States. I didn't go to one doctor. I've been to 3.
Right.
And then I went to a very good one in Harley Street. And now I'm waiting for another one to go to, which is next year. I'll see somebody else. But I'm not taking action off what one person says.
No.
But I've seen the x-ray, and my osteopath I've been with a long time. And he's the one who said, you're going to have to take care of this. This is really not good. And you can see it on the x-rays that we will be posting. You can actually see the spine, how it's, degenerating.
Well, good for you. I mean, that's the best thing you can do is just...
I will be doing the best with my cold plunging, my yoga, my walking, my anti-inflammatory, my water. And so now I'm thinking about my spine like a tree or a flower. I have to keep watering it. And why I've been told all through my life to drink water. Yes. My mother's not good at drinking water either.
So one other thing that I think is interesting, again, from midlife onwards, is comfort zones. I think it's very easy to get stuck in your comfort zone and not jump outside of it. I don't believe that you've done that for a minute, but what's your experience with that? Are there things that you're invited to do that you say no to? I mean, your Kilimanjaro, it makes me think that you always say yes. But are there
first
ever
of all,
things you say no
the
to?
comfort zone comes for me. And today I had the Chinese champion in for a lesson. And he was dancing around and very much in his comfort zone. That means a little bit laid back. We've got a major championship in a couple of weeks at the Royal Albert Hall. And this young chappie is hoping to finish in the top 3. So I see in other people comfort zones, things what they do, they go on automatic. They drive the same way to work all the time.
Yes.
They don't feel like they have to practice hard when it comes to the world that I'm in. Work ethic and keeping yourself going, and always stay out of that comfort zone. That comfort zone can be a couch and a bag of crisps, and that makes me nervous enough not to go there. So I climbed Kilimanjaro. I did my... last year I did my skiathlon, and I've got another show coming out in January, and I think you'll be quite shocked at what you see me do there.
Oh my goodness.
So, and that's with a bad back. So I'm always don't want to succumb to be that person that gets to the age of 50 or 60, as I'm going up to be 65 next year, so I'm 64, that says, okay, enough's enough now, let me just sit and read a book.
Yes.
I don't want to be that person.
No.
That person scares me.
Yes.
I want to be up and out in the mornings. I want to be teaching to the best. Will I have to shorten my date? Maybe. But I still want to keep going, So I will be constantly pushing myself.
There isn't a Shirley in there that's looking forward to a retirement.
There is not a Shirley in there that is
and...
looking forward to going in the garden and cutting the bits off the flower. No, that's not me.
All.
Don't mind watering them. It is nice to water the garden, but I'm not that person. No. I want to set challenges. I want to keep moving forward. I want to keep working on my charities. I do a lot to do with Calm and campaign against living miserably, and Macmillan, the cancer and things like that. So in the children's hospitals, I want to keep pushing myself. They ask me to do something, I'm going to do my best to do it. I'm
very supportive of your desire to take things easy and to focus on yourself, but it's going to be a challenge, isn't it?
It's always been challenging for me. Always. My mother is just a gasp at the things that I do. She's just can't believe it. Like this morning up at 5, at work by 7, so that I can make the podcast today, and then go home, get ready, out we go, and then another meeting. But I like that. I like to stay busy. Otherwise, I'm left alone with my thoughts, and my thoughts aren't always a good place to go.
Well, we're very appreciative, both for you coming on the podcast, but also for the things that you've done that have paved the way for change in midlife.
Thank you.
If there was like one thing that you would wish perhaps that you at a younger age had known, or that, women coming up towards the life change could know, that you could tell them? I know it's hard to be put on the spot, but
I think I was very scared, but I would say to women, now it's starting to become more in the workplace. It's more talked about. It's more accepted. It's more tolerated, if I can say that. I would say don't be frightened to talk if you're not feeling well, if you feel under the weather, if you've got a hot flush and you're working with a lot of men in the office, to put the air conditioning on, or to say, hey guys, and explain how you feel, because I think that we feel it's embarrassing.
Yes. But
it's not embarrassing. No. We hit puberty, and there we were to be our baby making machine for those that wanted to have children. And then, we're going into this part of our life and we bring wisdom and we bring knowledge and we bring experience. And I don't think that anybody should be nervous to speak out, although there are still people out there who don't always want to understand your feelings. Don't be scared. It's a natural progression of life, and it doesn't have to mean doom and gloom.
No.
Get yourself sorted. Go talk to your doctor. If you're able to take some sort of, medicine, menopausal medicine that helps you. Like I said, with my bioidentical hormones, I felt like an 18-year-old, So, yeah, speak out.
It's wonderful.
Don't hide.
You're living proof that life does not stop at midlife. So thank you so much, Shirley, for
Thank you so
joining
much for
us.
having me. I've enjoyed it.